Let's get that over there. Let's just grab that right there. And let's close this out and let everybody know. There we go. All right. Now, let's just wait for everybody to get in here. And we can start chatting here. We got about 5 minutes before we start. I'm just checking a few things here and there. Now, let's see what we got over here. Okay, so let's close that out. Alrighty. Oh. Wait for everybody to arrive. We're starting in 4 minutes. Oh, I'm not buying anything right now, James. I ain't buying nothing. Nothing. Not a thing. No. Not a thing. No. Not for a while, anyway. Not for a while. We got another 4 minutes, and then we will get started. We're just giving everybody time to get in. Hi, Shadow Deist. Now, you know what? I am 46 years old, right? 46 years old, and this week, I get a zit. 46 years old. I haven't had a zit on my face since I was 17, and then this week, for no apparent reason, zit. Why? Why? It boggles my mind. I mean, I always told y'all that I never matured past 17, but the zit's coming back. That's one bridge too far. What's up with the new background? Oh, I just found out that I could do this. Through NVIDIA broadcast or whatever, I found out this was a setting I could do. So it ain't come. I can't pop it on stream. It ain't come to a head yet. Stress? Well, you never know. It could be stress. Possibly. Maybe. I mean, I ain't hiding nothing. Look, see? I ain't hiding nothing. See? I'm still in the same room. I'm just playing around because it's something different. Got 2 minutes and then we'll get started. Two minutes before we get going here. You'll need that proactive formula. You know, when I was a teenager, we had this stuff... not OxyClear, because that crap didn't work worth a darn. We had this stuff called Clear by Design, and it came in this little tube that was about the size of a AA battery, and it had a little wand with a tip on the end, and you just took a little bit out and dabbled that on there, and it'd dry it out within a couple of hours. It'd just be gone. Stuff was amazing. I don't know why they don't still sell it anymore. Clear by Design. Anyway, we got 1 more minute. And then we will get started with the proceedings. Oh, I vanished. Oh, that was fun. That was fun. That was fun. One more minute and we're going to get on with the show. Oh my. I haven't been here for a couple of weeks because work is kicking my butt. So, wasn't going to miss 3 weeks in a row. Wasn't going to let that happen. Anyway, it is Saturday. It is 6 o'clock, August 7th, 2021. And this is the 7thCast, as always. I am your venerable host, your friendly neighborhood 7th. 8th is off in his room doing 8th things. Don't know what that could be. He might show up in the chat tonight. He might not. All depends. We spent the earlier part of the day watching Dexter reruns. Why? Because 8th has never watched Dexter, and he saw the trailer for the revival of the show and finally decided, hey, this is something that I should catch up on. And so I have been watching Dexter with him for the last week. We just finished season 2 today, and so we'll probably be starting season 3 tomorrow. I've already warned him that after season 4 it kind of goes to crap, but he is determined to be as caught up can be by the time the new show comes out, even though we don't have Showtime, so I don't know how he intends to watch it. That is one channel that we have not picked up. We have HBO Plus, Disney Plus, or HBO Max, Disney Plus, Hulu, Netflix. We got all this stuff. We don't have Showtime. Now, I could add Showtime to my Amazon. We could do that, but that cost me more money. And right now, more money is not something I can afford. I'm having to quit vaping. Right here. I'm having to quit this. You know why? Because even though it's cheaper than cigarettes, it still costs $80 a month. And all the deferments on my student loans wore off. So starting this month, I'm having to pay $300 a month on my student loans. So the vape's got to go. Once this last bottle runs out, I'm going to have to cold turkey this stuff. Is what it is. Is what it is. So, hi Alexis, hi Nicholas. Bates Motel. I'd watched a couple episodes of Bates Motel. I never really got into it. So one of the big topics that sprang up this week was when the beta came out for the next PS5 firmware update that unlocked the ability to expand memory drives. Suddenly YouTube and Twitter were full, absolutely full of comments and videos concerning how PlayStation had made a grievous error, that this was just too difficult, that it was just way too hard to install one of these drives, and that they should have done what Microsoft did. What Microsoft did was come out with a proprietary memory solution. A little plug-and-play SSD card that runs at half the speed of the PS5 SSD. And only costs about $25 to $50 less depending on, what brand you go with for SSD for the PS5. So there's no great cost advantage. There's half the speed. The only advantage to it is that you just plug it in. But it's proprietary. Now, what were the Xbots complaining about? And not that long ago, a few years ago, it was proprietary memory on the Vita. Sony made such a huge mistake going proprietary with their memory cards. How dare they? And overcharge for them. The thing about SSDs go down in price over time. But since Microsoft went with a proprietary solution, that means they don't have any competition. which means they don't ever have to lower their price. They can sell that thing for over $200 in perpetuity, just like Sony did with the Vita. And as for difficulty, let's set the Wayback Machine to 1983. I was about 8 years old, somewhere around in there, give or take. I was playing a Atari 2600 game. I don't remember which one. And I got really mad. And I took my Atari 2600 controller and I chucked it across the room. You'd think, well, it couldn't go that far. It was cabled and it was connected to the 2600. But I didn't know my own strength, and I was lower middle class, so I had a very small room. So the controller hit the wall, and after I'd calmed down, I went to pick it back up. Controller didn't work no more. Didn't work no more. So I went and got one of my dad's screwdrivers. And I popped it open. Because I knew that if I went to him and said, yeah, I need a new Atari controller, I threw mine across the room, I wasn't getting a new Atari controller. So I popped that sucker open and I saw that the way the thing worked was it had these two plastic arms that kind of created a circle around it, and those moved on a hinge like this, and that determined the X and the Y and all that. And one of those arms had snapped. It was clean cut. Not jagged or anything, just a clean snap. And so, with my father's supervision, of course, because he was not going to allow me to use some of his more advanced tools by myself at age 8, we went and got some stuff out of his little workshop that he had built in the basement for reloading ammunition. And we sat at the kitchen table, and I melted the ends of that snapped piece of plastic, put them back together, and kept it locked in place until the plastic had cooled. And it was just as good as it was before. But just to be safe, took some of my dad's duct tape, wrapped it around there a couple of times, not enough to make it too overly heavy so it would cause, input lag, physical analog input lag. And then I took it back in my room and plugged it in. Worked like a charm, and it worked like a charm right up until the day that I sold that original 2600 in a yard sale. This was because I was trying to make money to get a Nintendo, which I also I sold a bunch of my toys. I sold my 2600, and then I took all my money that I'd made from cutting yards and I went and bought an NES. But that's besides the point. The point was, I was 8 years old. I'd never seen a schematic for the inside of a 2600 controller. Didn't know anything about them. Didn't know how they worked. But I fixed one on my own with my dad watching, with tools that I wasn't supposed to be old enough to use yet. And now look at today. My son, 8th, is 18 years old. He graduated high school this year. He has no formal PC hardware training at all. He took computer programming in high school, and he took a beginner's course in game design in high school. He doesn't have the training I do. He doesn't have an A+ certification. He doesn't have Net+ certification. He doesn't have any of the certs I do. He doesn't have a degree. He doesn't have 20+ years working in IT. He has none of that. Built his own first computer when he was in middle school. The computer I'm working on now, this 2060 Super based PC, he built that for me. The computer he has with a 3080 in it, he built that. He has built computers for his friends, at least 3 of them that I know of. No training on it. None. But the Xbots would have me believe that it is too difficult for a person to slide off a door, unscrew a screw, take a thing that only has a connector on one side of it, plug it in the only slot that it would fit in, screw it back in, and pop the plate back on. That's too hard. Something that is only one step removed from how many steps it takes you to change out the batteries on your TV remote control. Too hard. Too hard. You know what you're telling me? You're telling me that your generation are dumb, and that your generation have grown up accustomed to having everything done for them and have no initiative to learn something new. That's what you're telling me when you say that. And I know it's not just Xbox saying it. It's all the other clout chasers that are looking for something to stir up controversy to make videos about. Even Review Tech USA made a video about it. It's easy as can be. If I can open up my refrigerator door, step one, see that the light is out in my refrigerator. Unscrew the light bulb, step two. Get in my car and drive to Lowe's or Walmart, step three. Compare my light bulb to find the right light bulb model in the store, step four. Take it to the cash register and check out, step 5. Drive back home, step 6. Screw in the new light bulb and make sure that it works, step 7. If I can do that on my own, with no manual on the refrigerator, because it came with the house, no past experience doing anything with refrigerators, then you, with instructions and with YouTube, and with how-tos and everything else available on the internet, can slide a panel off, unscrew a screw, pop a little drive in to, that only has a connector on one end, and with only one port for you to plug it into, screw it back in, slide the panel back on. If you're saying that you can't do that, your parents failed you. You had bad parents. You had bad parents who did everything for you and never taught you to have initiative, never taught you to be curious, never taught you to want to teach yourself how to do things, never taught you to be self-reliant, and had everything in the world done for you, possibly even wiping your backside for you, for all I know. That's what you're telling me when you say that it's just too difficult for the average person to install an SSD drive in the PS5. Never mind that some of these folks who are saying this are the same folks who would post videos bragging that they installed a bigger hard drive in their Xbox 360 Model 2 and their Xbox One, which included sliding a panel off, taking out an old drive, taking in a new drive. And in the case of the PS3, of course, you had to let it install all the software and all that on it too. But this is too hard. Y'all crack me up. You crack me up, and I weep for the future of this planet. So sad. So sad. This is the end result of the participation trophy generation. There are no winners or losers. All that matters is that you participated. You stood out there on the field while everyone else actually played the game, but you still get a trophy. This is what you end up with. People that can't follow 4 steps. Hilarious. Absolutely hilarious. I never played Looney Tunes Sheep Raider on PS1. Anyway, that's my 15-minute long rant on people whining about the difficulty of the SSD. And the thing of it is, they're not really whining. They're trying to make a mountain out of a molehill. They're looking for anything that they can spin as a negative. That's all it is. It's fanboyism and clout chasers. And why did my camera suddenly get... Hey. That's better. Fanboyism and clout chasers. Absolutely ridiculous. Oh no! When I buy my next TV, I better get one that has a rechargeable battery in the remote, because if the batteries go dead and need to be swapped out, I'm going to be lost. I'm going to be so lost. And before you say, hey, you've always complained about the batteries in an Xbox 360, I didn't complain about them because of how hard it was to take them out and put them back in. Unbelievable. So that was my 15-minute rant. Time to answer questions, because that was the only preset topic I had. I mean, I could sit here. I could have tried to clout chase for more views by naming the title of this video, Chris Chan stooped his mom. But I wasn't going to do that. I wasn't going to do that because I'm not that incredibly interested in that topic anyway. You all should have known that story was going to end with a really bizarre final conclusion. The grand finale, the crescendo of disgusting final acts of the internet. You should have known that was coming. This just wasn't the disgusting final act that a lot of you were probably anticipating. I was anticipating that in his love quest, he'd go out and kidnap somebody from the mall and get caught. That's what I anticipated. Not his own mom. But anyway, I could have done like so many other channels out there and named my stream after it. And I even have covered Chris Chan as a main topic before. But it was because he had gone nuts at a gaming convention. So that's a little bit different. That's still on topic. Stooping his mom has nothing to do with gaming. Snowflake generation exactly, Jacoby. Is Nintendo making a new handheld? I highly doubt it. They already did. It's called the Switch OLED. It's called the Switch OLED. They're having a hard enough time coming out with new games for the Switch. Actual real first-party games. That's not something that they've brought back from the Wii U. You think they have enough development people for creating games for a whole other platform? This is the new norm for them. I highly doubt that you're ever going to see them running a whole different line now. They've combined their console and their handheld markets into one market. I'm not saying it's impossible. It could happen, but highly unlikely. I think the only other handheld you're going to see is the next Switch. Are you getting the expansion of Ghost of Tsushima? Not right away. Not right away because, again, I don't have a whole lot of money. I'm fortunate that I've even managed to drum up enough backup funds to go to Retropalooza this year. I won't be able to buy much, but I at least have, hotel and gas. And that's only because I had some available funds that I'd forgotten about. And so I tapped into it a little bit. And that'll also cover, hopefully, there will be enough left over to cover 8th for Christmas this year, because he hasn't really asked for that much anyway. But until at least March of next year, when I get my next raise and my next bonus, so I can knock some more of my debt out to compensate for this extra $300 I'm paying every month, it's going to be slim pickings in Casa de 7th until then. I'm not going to be out buying a whole bunch. Now, 8th has a job interview next week, and if he gets that job, then one of the first things he told me he was going to get was he's going to buy that director's cut of Ghost of Tsushima for himself. So if that happens and he gets it, fine. But otherwise, I'm not going to be spending my money on it, because everything that I have left over month to month for the rest of the year is first going to go to making sure that I have enough for Retropalooza in October, and 2, 8th Christmas. And everything that I make from these streams, 8th Christmas. So that reminds me, 3-hour podcast can be extended by donation up here. $50, I stay an extra hour. $75, I stay an extra 2 hours. And if I hit 100 or more, I stay an extra 3 hours for a whopping 6-hour stream, which hasn't happened in a long time. You could become members of the channel, but you guys know I don't advertise that. And I have a Patreon, but I don't advertise that neither, because I don't have anything to give away for perks. The only reason I still have that Patreon account for the most part is for the 1 or 2 other YouTubers that I support via Patreon, which isn't an incredible amount. It's like $5 or $10 a month. And so I keep it open to do that. But you don't see me begging for everybody to sign up for monthly memberships to my channel. You don't see me begging everybody to sign up for Patreon, because this is just something that I do for fun. I'm not trying to make a living off this crap. No, 8th does not have his driver's license yet. He is studying for it, and that's the reason he wants a job, so he can have his own car to drive to and from his whatever job he's going to get, so that I don't have to drive him to and from work every day that he works. And also because he intends next year to start college, and he's going to go to college locally, so he's going to need to be able to drive to and from college too. I platinum Scarlet Nexus. Did you get a chance to play it yet? No, it has not left 8th's room yet. 8th is still playing it. I don't get to play it until 8th is done with it. Thoughts on Pixar's Luca? It wasn't exactly my cup of tea. There was bits and pieces of it that I liked, but for the most part, to me anyway, it didn't really feel like a Pixar film. It felt more like a foreign film, and Pixar had just bought the rights to it, is what it felt like to me. I know that's not what it is, but that's what it felt like. Genghis Khan versus Adolf, who was worse? That's not a gaming topic, Shadow Deist. I've told you about this before. Does 8th have his driver's license yet? I already answered that. When did you get the green screen? I don't have a green screen. This is a built-in function of NVIDIA Broadcast. I can turn it on and off at will. Here, watch. 1 minute background replacement. Next minute, blurry my office. Remove this effect. Now it's not even blurry. It's sharp. And look, it's not a fake background. I'm reaching over and grabbing stuff. Or I can go back to background replacement. Ooh, magic. No green screen required. It's the same basic technology that you get with Zoom meetings and Microsoft Teams chats, conferences. You can put in fake backgrounds with those too. It's pretty cool. Let's see here. My funds all disappeared from my broken AC unit needing to get replaced. No retro gaming cons for me this year. I wasn't looking to go, not only because of the student loan happening again, but because also, concerns about whether me and 8th were going to be fully vaccinated by then, the Delta variant, because after all, when you go to a con, you're not just going to a con with people from that town. You have people from all over the country that are flying in, and who knows whether they've been vaccinated or not. But I managed to get a hold of some actual N95 masks. We've got our surgical gloves to protect with that. We've got all of our hand sanitizer and all that wonderful stuff, and we're double vaccinated with the Pfizer vaccine. So the funds opened up to where I could go, and then I've booked the hotel room. So unless something comes out in the news showing that things are getting worse, or I start seeing news stories about people going to conventions and getting sick with COVID by the dozens, which there's been conventions all summer long, and I'm just not seeing that. I'm going. I'm going because I haven't seen my friends in 2 years. And I miss my friends. So I'm going. I'll be wearing a mask and I'll be wearing gloves. And I'm probably going to do my best as possible as you can in a con to stay 6 feet away from everybody as much as possible, but I'm going. Where ain't applying? He's applied a bunch of different places. I'm not sure which one he's having the interview with this week. This second half of this year, there aren't that many games. Metroid, Kena, Bridge of Spirits, Halo, Back for Blood. Yeah. What did you give the new Suicide Squad out of 7? 6 out of 7. 6 out of 7. There was a few minor quibbling issues that I had with it. But for the most part, I really enjoyed it. It was way better than the first one. Way better. And it was obvious that James Gunn wanted to make sure that if he made another one, he was only making one with characters that he cared about. Because with the exception of Harley Quinn, every returning character, well, except for Harley Quinn and the main boss of the Suicide Squad, the woman, I can't remember her name, but with the exception of her and Harley Quinn, every other character from the original that came back died. So there aren't, all the ones that did come back, they ain't coming back after this one. He was cleaning house. Why is Teams better than Zoom? It's more stable. 8th was having problems with Zoom when he was doing school from home. It was constantly crashing, constantly having conflicts and stuff. Server was always going down. We've been using Teams at my office for at least 2 years, I think, probably longer. No problems. None. Never have an issue. Which is the best right now? The PS5, the Xbox Series X, or the Nintendo Switch? Right now, as of this moment right now, it's the PS5 because it's had the most new actual next-gen games released for it. Xbox Series X doesn't have crap. If you're playing Xbox Series X and you're one of these folks that refuses to buy $70 or $60 retail games, then all you're playing is old crap, because that's pretty much, aside from first party, all that Microsoft has. Yeah, you've got Microsoft Flight Simulator, but not really a game. Not really a game. It's a storefront unless you pay the $90 one, and even then, it ain't really a game. There ain't nothing fun about that. It's an interactive screensaver where you get to fly over. Oh, look, pyramids. Oh, look, Everest. Oh, look, Central Park. Oh, look, there's the Statue of Liberty. That's what it is. When you play it, it's got tutorials, like a training course. It's got 5 discovery things, which is basically just flying over something famous for a few minutes. It's got what it calls bush missions, where you have like a get from this point to this point within a certain amount of time and stuff like that. And that's pretty much it, man. I mean, I've read about I've seen footage of races in there, but they're not exactly, on the edge of your seat races like you'd see in Forza Horizons, okay? Because you're flying around in a Cessna. A Cessna. You don't exactly experience the thrill of speed in a Cessna. And since the Xbox Series X doesn't support VR, you don't have the thrill of actually feeling like you're there either. Especially since if you don't have a VRR capable TV, you're not seeing it at 60 frames. You're seeing it at 30 on the Series X. So what I'm saying is basically it's a shareware storefront. When you go on it, there's barely any material to it, and you have a bunch of content that you can buy, some of which, yes, is made by the community, but a lot of what's on there is made by Asobi themselves, or whatever the name of that the company that made it is. And it's stuff like additional training courses, and then these visual improvement packs that are for other airports and other cities and other countries. And the reason being is because the detail that you see in New York or the detail you see at Mount Everest is not the detail that you see everywhere else. When you fly over, for example, Disney World, and you decide I'm going to follow the monorail tracks from Epcot to Magic Kingdom. Well, first of all, you can't type in Disney World and it actually find it. So you have to go to the world map, find Florida, zoom in on Florida, find Kissimmee, which is a suburb of Orlando, and then once you find the Kissimmee airport, look around till you find Magic Kingdom or Epcot and manually plan your route. But if you decided you wanted to follow the monorail from Epcot to Magic Kingdom, because they're the only two parks that are linked by the monorail, what you'll see once you're actually flying over it is that the monorail tracks just look like a solid wall from the top all the way down. There's no gap underneath it. It's just a one solid wall, and it's got trees growing up in the middle of it. So if the monorail track actually looked like this, you'd have monorails crashing every day. Of course, there are no monorails actually running on it. And then when you fly over the Magic Kingdom, a whole bunch of the detail is not there. Castle's there. Space Mountain is there, but the spire at the top of Space Mountain's missing. There's absolutely no detail on Main Street. The Fantasyland carousel is flat. So all it is the tent top on top of the carousel lying on the ground. There's no carousel underneath it. And it's because they haven't gone in and done all that extra intricate detail that you see in New York or see in flying over Mount Everest. And even when you go over those, you've got textures popping in left and right. And if you fly in really close, like if you buzz the Freedom Tower, you get close to it on the right side and all the detail is gone. It's just a bunch of blocky mess. So, and my neighborhood, for example, that I grew up in. I found my neighborhood, took off from the Chattanooga Municipal Airport, flew over there, and the geography was all wrong. And by that I mean that there's a hill you have to go up, and then another hill you have to go down, and then my neighborhood is on the side of a third hill, and you had a bit of an incline, but it wasn't enough. And when you flew over it, none of the houses looked like the actual houses from my neighborhood. And I'm like, why do they look like that? And so I landed the plane in my neighborhood so I could see what they looked like from street level. And they had used a generic one-story house model for every house in my neighborhood. So every house in my neighborhood was the same house. So they had enough map data to say there's a house here, a house here, and a house here. But we're not going to use the actual map data. So we're just going to put generic houses there. And part of that comes from the fact that Microsoft Flight Simulator doesn't use Google Earth. It uses Bing Maps. And the Bing Maps that they used haven't been updated in at least 2 years. And the reason that I know that is because when I flew over Epcot, none of the recent demolition that's taken place at Epcot, where they destroyed Innovations West, Innovations is still there. So I know these maps are like 2 years old. Anyway, point being, there ain't a whole lot on Xbox Game Pass that's new. You got you got any first party games, which they haven't had any. So your new games consist of The Medium, which is about to go multi-plat, and Microsoft Flight Simulator, which has almost nothing on it. And then you have Dark Alliance. That's the only new third party game they have on there, and it sucks. It's terrible. Me and Edith spent about 2 hours playing it this week. We captured the footage. Oh my God. Oh my God, that game is horrible. It's an insult to the original Dark Alliance series. Absolutely horrid. Terrible game. Oh, Jacoby Man sent $4 Canadian. Thank you, Jacoby Mans. Appreciate that, sir. Sorry I got on a little bit of a rant there and didn't see it. My apologies. What's your favorite all-time Nintendo handheld? Game Boy SP. I work in hotels. I'm actually naturally immune for some reason to COVID. Okay. Hope you don't have to test that theory. Why are you talking about COVID? I thought no politics were involved. Did you change your mind, hypocrite? COVID is not a political party. COVID is not a religion. COVID is a virus. You'll notice that I didn't bring up anything political in my reference to COVID. I merely stated that it was a virus that I don't want to catch. Nor did I say everyone should get vaccinated or everyone shouldn't. I merely stated that there is a virus I don't want to catch. So that is you reaching, Shadowhood, and you're not fooling anybody. I remember from the last time you were in the chat. That's strike one, sir. You got 2 more. Just 2. Thoughts on Retro Ark on Xbox? I don't need it. I've got, emulation on my little Super Console X thing that I imported. So, don't need it. Can you imagine people who have an Xbox Series X with a 4 teraflop and have to pay $10 more than those who own an Xbox One X with 6 teraflops? So there is no end to Flight Simulator. Even the achievements in it are kind of stupid. Like taxi on the runway for so many miles. Use this assist mode so many times. Change the weather. And it's because there are no actual gamified moments to it. It's all, set a course and take off from this airport, fly so many miles without using any assistance, land over here. That's as close to a game as it gets. There's no actual missions. It's not like you're taking on the Red Baron or something. You're just flying around looking at stuff. And if you get really close to it, it ain't that much to look at. Can you explain what Epcot was? Epcot, it's one of the theme parks at Walt Disney World. It was originally short for Experimental Prototype Community of Tomorrow. Walt Disney envisioned it as a city of the future that was going to show the world how to build a more self-sufficient and future-proof city that was cleaner, had better housing, no poverty, no ghettos, no crime, blah, blah, blah. And then he died of cancer and they turned it into a theme park. The end. The Delta variant. I already know about the Delta variant. I just mentioned it earlier. I said I was still watching the news about the whole Delta thing. Rest in peace, Milton. Do you think The Last of Us is the most overrated game in history? Well, the second one certainly is. I didn't have any problems with the first one except for the fact that for me it was just another survival horror game and I'm sick of survival horror games. There's a rumor that Sony is growing Sucker Punch to make 2 to 3 and higher ups want to make a Sly game when they're bigger. In other words, you kind of lost your English there in that comment. I have heard the rumors that they are expanding Sucker Punch to be 2 to 3 teams big. I've heard these rumors. I don't care so much about reviving Sly, but I would like to see more Infamous games. Maybe ditch Delson Rowe and go back to Cole. Use the good ending where the lightning struck the boat and bring Cole back. But I don't really care all that much about Sly coming back. Because, Sly has some fun platforming, but especially with the second and third game, it was primarily about stealth, sneaking around. And as y'all know, I don't really like stealth games that much. A lot of standing around watching patterns so you know where to stand to be safe and not seen by a spotlight for the couple of seconds before you move on to the other section of the map. How the freak heck you going to give me a strike when I didn't even talk about politics over sensitive much? Stop abusing the strikes. It's my stream. You don't have to watch. My stream, my rules. When I don't say anything political and you call me a hypocrite over making political statements that I didn't make, that's a strike. And now accusing me of abusing the strikes, that's strike 2. You got one left. Enjoy. 7th or 8th played Back 4 Blood beta yet? No. I told 8th that the beta was live, and he said, interesting. And I don't know if that meant that when I started the stream that he was going to go install the beta and try it out or what. I have personally not played the beta. I haven't played the beta, but then again, I'm not all that hot on co-op games. I never was that big into Left 4 Dead, so I'm not exactly the target audience for it anyway. Every now and again, I'll play co-op with 8th like we did with Dark Alliance this week. But usually it's not my cup of tea. When do you think we'll see any updates on Marvel Spider-Man 2? I have no idea. What damage, if any at all, do you think services like Game Pass are doing to the perception of value for full-price games? As far as the Sony audience goes, none. As far as the Microsoft audience goes, ever since Game Pass came out, I don't know how many times I've heard I'll play it when it comes out on Game Pass. I hear that all the time now. I'll just wait till it hits Game Pass. Just like nowadays, people are staying away from movie theaters and saying, oh, I'll just watch it when it hits Amazon, or I'll just watch it when it hits Netflix. Or I have HBO Max, I'll just watch it for free, like I did with Suicide Squad this week. Yes, Back 4 Blood is basically like a spiritual successor to Left 4 Dead. No, I didn't change my mind. I just said that I don't have any interest really in playing Back 4 Blood. I said it was not my cup of tea. Were you not listening there, Shadow? I'm playing Diablo 3 right now. Just want to know, did you ever beat it? Yeah, I beat Diablo 3. I never platted it, but I beat it. It was just too much grind. I didn't feel like putting that many hours into it. You know, I'll go after a plat if I can plat it in like 100 hours or less. If it's anything more than 100 hours, I usually don't bother. I'll beat it and then I'll go on to something else. And I've put, quite a few hours into testing out Game Pass since I got the Series X. I've earned somewhere around, 5,000 G since the Series X got here. Just trying out other games, trying out this, trying out that, trying out stuff on Game Pass. Most of it I haven't liked, but I at least earned a few G anyway, which I've never cared near as much about my my gamer tag as I have my trophy score, so is what it is. Any thoughts on the iPhone privacy storm? No, because I don't even use an iPhone. I use an Android. Did you see the leaks on next-gen PSVR OLED screens, 110-degree view, and they're saying they want more games to have the option like Resident Evil 7 as opposed to like smaller little VR experiences? Yeah, I read the article. I mean, to this day, I've barely played the PSVR itself. Why? Because Eighth took it in his room and I never saw it again. You know? There's a lot of PSVR games I'd like to be playing, but until the new PSVR comes out, I won't be able to play the old PSVR because Eighth keeps it in his room. I've never played on the Oculus. He has the Oculus. I've never played on it either because it stays in his room. Did you have any thoughts on the Marvel writer James Gunn making Suicide Squad good? No, I mean, I have heard that the original cut of Suicide Squad, the first film, is a totally different film than what came out on theater, even the extended cut. That the original version of the movie that the director filmed was a totally different film than what we got. But I don't think it would have been anything like what James Gunn made, because James Gunn has a certain tongue-in-cheek slapstick style to his films, and that's not that the other director is not really known for that. Do you like racing games? I'm not really. You know, I like certain types of racing games. I haven't been into a racing game since Burnout Paradise. Burnout Paradise is my type of racing game. And there just hasn't been another game that has appealed to me on that level. Now, I know that the people that made Burnout Paradise transitioned over to making the Need for Speed series. So some of the Need for Speed games that have come out since that time have had a very Burnout Paradise feel to them. But when I've played them, I haven't liked the layout of the city as much. I didn't think that they didn't feel like they had the same sense of humor. They weren't as funny. The soundtrack wasn't as good, etc., etc. Hi, Nick. Which Suicide Squad do you prefer? This new one. This new one. It was a lot more fun. Had some stupid stuff in it, but that's part of what made it fun. You know, it doesn't feel so much a part of the Zack Snyder verse, even though it is, as much as it feels more in tune with the kind of sense of humor you saw in Shazam, but on an R-rated level. You know, there's no nudity, but there's lots of F-bombs and so much blood and gore. I mean, it's CG blood and gore, but it's blood and gore. Guys getting ripped in half vertically, you know, guys getting eaten, guys getting their heads blown off, blood spraying everywhere. It was glorious. It was glorious. I mean, it's CG, but it's still bloody. Way bloodier than anything that you're going to see from, typical Marvel movies. In fact, I think it was bloodier than than either of the Deadpool films. Why did Rockstar stop making Midnight Club? Probably wasn't making them enough money. Thoughts on Maximum Carnage? Are you talking about the video game, or are you talking about the Venom 2? I saw the Venom 2 trailer. It looked like it'd be funny, but I thought the first one was pretty funny. So, we'll see. We'll see. You just had to pick when I was streaming to cut down tree limbs or do your weed eating or whatever the hell it is you're doing over there. I swear. I swear. Now I know why guys like Review Tech USA go and freaking Nostalgia Critic go and build studios for doing this stuff instead of doing it out of their house. Not that I could afford to do anything like that. I don't have the money to buy an SSD. I already talked about that earlier. How long do you think we have before Sony follows the money in the industry trend to create live service games? I don't know. I know they're investing in it already. I'm not looking forward to it. What are some PSVR games that you've wanted to play anyways? Basically all the ones that we own. Yeah, we've bought a bunch of them. 8th has gotten to play them. I haven't gotten to play them. The only thing that I've gotten to play to any great degree on PSVR was the PSVR Worlds thing where you had like the little scuba diving thing and all that stuff. That's all I've gotten to play on it. That and Rush of Blood. I love Rush of Blood. Would love to play that some more. That was incredibly fun. But it is what it is. But some of the other ones like... I don't remember the name of it. The first-person shooter that's on an alien planet with a bunch of bugs. That one. And the Blood and Truth or whatever it's called. The gangster one that was made by the... I think it was had some of the people that made The Getaway involved in it. I'm not sure. We've got a whole library of PSVR games. It's like this long. So... Is that why EA stopped making Fight Night? No money Well, I would assume that it was because the sales aren't there for them to warrant them keep investing in it. What's your thoughts on Jeff Bezos going to space? I couldn't give less of a crap. Do you think Microsoft is screwed in the gaming market because of PSVR? No, because PSVR is a niche market. It's a market that's growing, but it's still niche. All it really means is that... Sony gets to say, you have no option for this on an Xbox console. And it's true. You know, they talked about making their console compatible with third-party headsets. Never happened. Will it happen in the future? If PSVR 2 somehow magically takes off and becomes a phenomenon instead of a moderate success like the previous PlayStation VR, yes, they will. If it only sells, a few million units, then no, it won't. Thoughts on the Ninja Gaiden 3D games and what's your favorite? I never was a big into them. I preferred the original 2D games. Never really got into those. Does the Ubisoft controversy make you any less willing to play their games? Well... I don't really play that many of their games anyway. Every now and again I buy an Assassin's Creed game and that's it. And even then I don't buy every one of them that comes out, just ones that interest me. If it's a period of history that I'm interested in. What is wrong with Xbox production on games? It's laughable how bad it is. Well, maybe it'll improve with all these studios that they've bought. Yet to be seen. Yet to be seen. I wonder how their bonus structure is going to work. Because, at other studios, the bonuses are based around, if you get the game out on time, what the review scores are like, how many copies are sold, etc., etc. But when they're putting all their games out day and date on Game Pass, I'm wondering what the bonus structure for their in-house developers is like now. Did you hear about the new South Park game being made? No, haven't really paid that much attention to it. I never really played the second one all that much at all. I played the first one quite a bit. And of course I played older South Park games, like games on PS1 and N64. But as far as their new stuff, I played all the way through Stick of Truth, but I haven't played the new one at all. The Fractured But Whole, I haven't played it. I have it, but I haven't played it. Wait a minute. Magic powers. Does seeing things like Steam Deck make you wish Sony would take another shot at portables? Not really. Not really, because, especially over the last 2 years, I haven't really had a need for a portable device. The only time I ever played portable was when I was on third shift, because it was something for me to do at night when I was at work. And now I'm on day shift. I work from home. And so totally different responsibilities, totally different job. I don't have time to sit and play with a handheld during the day. And I don't really travel as much as I used to. So it's not like I need a gaming system to have in the hotel for all the hotel trips that I'm taking. It just doesn't happen that much. So portability doesn't really mean shit to me. Yo, 7th, have you watched the documentary on Woodstock 99? Yes. Do you remember that period? Yes. Was it weird and full of regression? Not really, just the stuff you saw on TV. I can remember going to clubs during that period, and I didn't see, aggressive fights and all this kind of stuff. I went to concerts and didn't see that kind of thing. I think it was just a number of different factors that led to that, and blaming it all on the music is BS. Do I think all the music of the late 90s was good? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. But there were bands that I liked, although most of mine were in the more indie punk scene than anything else. I wasn't a big fan of Korn or Limp Bizkit or any of those bands. Certainly wasn't a fan of Kid Rock. I think really they called it Woodstock, but it didn't have anything to do with what the previous two Woodstocks were about. They picked a lineup that was closer to what you would have expected from a Lollapalooza, or on a lower kind of a lower tier from Lollapalooza, a Warped Tour. It didn't have a Woodstock vibe at all, and so instead of attracting the Woodstock style audience, which would be the kind of audience that would go to like Coachella or something nowadays, they attracted people that would have been more expected to be seen at the Warped Tour. And you go to the Warped Tour, and it doesn't take place on an abandoned air base. It doesn't. Yes, there's some commerce there, but all of the structural problems and the administrative problems that they were having at Woodstock, not something you typically worry about when you go to the Warped Tour. And of course, the crowd was smaller than what you see at the Warped Tour. But here you had these guys that were there to hear aggressive, loud, nu metal and stuff like that, and that's not the Woodstock crowd. So I don't know what else they expected to happen. No, I wouldn't buy myself a yacht. I'd pay off all my debts. 7th, do you like the Whitest Kids You Know comedy group? I don't think I've ever watched anything of theirs. Hi, Smith. Did Watch Dogs remind you a little bit of true crime? Haven't really played Watch Dogs. If you were... I already read that. What were the bands that you liked? Well, I listened to indie punk during the 90s, like The Descendants, All, Less Than Jake, Goldfinger, stuff like that. In other words, bands that you would have seen on the Warped Tour, as opposed to nu metal stuff like... and you saw some of that on the Warped Tour, but, most of the bands that you see on the Warped Tour were bands that were on smaller labels like Epitaph and stuff like that. Yeah, you saw... Offspring was there, sure. But, and Offspring would be something you might expect to see on the Warped Tour. But, it's still... Even the Warped Tour had a slightly different vibe, because it was the indie punk scene more than it was anything else. So you had a lot of the Epitaph bands there, like Bad Religion and NoFX and stuff like that, which of course now NoFX has their own label, the Bad Records, and have for years. But you get what I'm saying. That was the kind of stuff I listened to in the 90s. Goldfinger, Descendants, All, NoFX, No Use for a Name, stuff like that. Platted Days Gone. I'm disappointed there isn't going to be a sequel. Yeah, I would have liked to have seen another one. Thoughts on Nickelodeon All-Star Brawl? Couldn't care less about it. None of the shows that, none of the characters are in that are shows that I watched on Nickelodeon when I was a kid, because I watched Nickelodeon as a kid when it was all, you can't do that on television, and Danger Mouse and The Third Eye and stuff like that. There was no SpongeBob, there was no Doug, there was no any of that. I was already an adult when all those shows came out. Opinions on Kojima. I like Metal Gear Solid a lot, but this guy is massively overhyped. I think a lot of time, I think that Kojima is a talented individual and a very creative individual, but sometimes I feel like he would be better suited to making films than games. Kind of depends on the game that he's working on. Oh, and look at that. Look at that. Guess what time it is? Two hours. We have 2 hours remaining. There have been $4 in donations so far. 4. So we are $46 short of the 10 o'clock extension. Let's see here. The only reason I asked was because the guy who founded The Whitest Kids You Know just passed away. I can't believe it. Yeah, I got shook up by a death this past week, and it was the suicide of Mike Ho, who was the lead singer of Metal Church, one of my favorite metal bands. Jacoby Mans donates $7, so now we're at 11. Thank you, Jacoby Man. Appreciate it, sir. $11 in donations. Thank you. Keep it up. I shall. I've loved Metal Church. I never really cared for the albums they made without Mike as the singer. The albums that came before and the albums that were in between when he left the band and when he reformed with the band back in like 2014 or 2015. I've only liked the albums that they released that had Mike as the lead singer. And my favorite Metal Church album of all time is actually the first album of theirs that I ever bought, which was Blessing in Disguise. If you like just really cool, not hair metal, but, driving hard, rhythmic metal that tells a story, that Blessing in Disguise album is an album that you need to own. You need to own it. It's very good. It has a song about the sinking of the Titanic. Yeah, it has a song that tells the story of the homeless. It has a song, another $5.49. So we're up to what? $16, Jacoby Man? $16.50, something like that? Thank you, Jacoby Man. I appreciate it. Thank you, sir. I don't think do I have the dollar bill on here? I don't know. Do I? Yeah. I have the dollar bill. Here, have a dollar bill on me. There you go. Thank you. It has a song that's based on the old Edgar Allan Poe story, The Telltale Heart. That's just amazing. That album is full of good stuff. One of my favorite songs on that album is called The Spell Can't Be Broken. When this stream is over, go to YouTube and look for Metal Church, The Spell Can't Be Broken. It's one of my all-time favorite songs. I love it. Let's see here. Yeah, crazy times. Do you think Starfield is overhyped? We haven't seen any gameplay of it. All we've seen is a pre-rendered cutscene. Show me some actual gameplay. We'll see what it is. I just came back from shopping at Walmart. Fun. Do you think John Wick should get a TV series? That might make for an interesting show, depending on what channel it's on. If it was on like Fox or FX or TNT, it's going to suck. If it was on HBO or Stars or something like that, might have some potential there. Do you believe that Master Chief could be the next Super Smash character? Well, there's always that possibility, but, you know, I don't play Smash Brothers, so I don't really give a crap. You're right about Kojima. He definitely is someone who may be better suited to making movies. I always got the sense that David Cage was a failed filmmaker. Yeah, the whole Quantic Dreams thing, I never really got into those because, you know, they were kind of like point-and-click adventure games like The Medium. But, and I did like point-adventure games back in the day on PC. You know, Monkey Island and Day of the Tentacle and stuff like that. But these newer ones, I don't like them as much. Do you think a Halo game in VR for Microsoft could work? Didn't this work for Vader VR? Well, of course it could work, but would Microsoft invest in it? Probably not. But look at Half-Life Alyx. VR works great for that game. Yeah, I already talked about the Chris Chan thing. Sort of. Is Star Citizen the biggest con in gaming history? Probably. Another one doesn't spring to mind. Darth Vader or Master Chief? Who's more popular? Darth Vader. Darth Vader. People all over the world know who Darth Vader is. People that have never played a video game in their life, they know who Darth Vader is. I watched a couple episodes of The Flash. I thought it looked cheap. I didn't like it. But then again, I haven't liked any of the WB DC shows. I didn't like Green Arrow, and I didn't like Smallville. And even though this wasn't a WB show, I kind of liked Gotham. There was some episodes of Gotham that I liked, but that's been about it. Are you going to watch the Last of Us TV show? I'll watch the first episode and see if it's any good. If it is, I'll watch it. If it's not, then that's as far as it goes for me. Why hasn't Microsoft made a VR themselves like Sony did? I don't know. They made that stupid HoloLens that never amounted to anything as for in the gaming space. Why they didn't invest in a VR helmet? I guess the under 10 million that Sony sold of that didn't seem worth the investment to them. They see it as an option, not as the actual future. And that's the issue. Yes, I saw the Suicide Squad movie. I already talked about that too. Pays to show up on time, Master Chief. Thoughts on $70 games? Well, I don't have a problem with it. I can't really afford it right now because of the student loan thing, but that has nothing to do with the actual price of the game itself, as far as like what retailers are choosing to charge for them. It's just that prior to me having to pay an extra $300 a month on my student loans now, I had no qualms about spending $70 on a game. But now I have less fun money per month until next March, when I can pay off some more of my debt, and hopefully I can pay off enough to where it gives me some of that monthly money back, and then it won't be an issue again. Plus I'll get a raise. Also, I found out that my 401k has $61,000 in it. Of course, I can't spend anything out of my 401k, but I can take out small loans. And then they just deduct, a few bucks out of my paycheck every 2 weeks to pay it off. Hence why I'm able to go to Retropalooza this year. It's not the first time I've borrowed against my 401k. I borrowed against my 401k when my Charger got wrecked so I'd have more of a down payment on my Challenger. Paid that one off last year. So now I was eligible to take out another loan on it. So now I'm going to Retropalooza. Thoughts on Sly Cooper 20th anniversary next year? Those games are fun and the story is good. Well, again, I've already talked about Sly Cooper earlier in the chat. I liked them, but by the time the third one came around, they had made it more about the big open world map with the stealth stuff. And I liked it mostly just for its platforming. Not so much the stealth stuff. So, thoughts on Sly Cooper? I already answered that. I had seen the movie Space Jam, and I gave it a 6 out of 10. You gave it more than I would have. Did you like Coming to America too? Not at all. There was a couple of lines that made me laugh, but for the most part, it was terrible. Absolutely terrible. Did not recapture the feel of the first film at all. It played it very safe, and it was no longer about Eddie Murphy's character. It was about his daughter taking over the throne for him. Boy, where have we seen that kind of narrative lately? And his son and his daughter. That's what the movie was about. He was just a side supporting character in his own movie. My. Thoughts on Raiders of the Lost Ark? I love Raiders of the Lost Ark. I love the first 3 indie films. Love the first 3. There's a couple of cool moments in the 4th one, but for the most part, it's crap. And I'm pretty sure this 5th one's going to be crap too. I'm pretty sure. Kind of makes you wonder how that marriage to Marion at the end of 4 went, when he's going to be gallivanting around with some totally different woman in this one, who I'm sure is going to steal a lot of the screen time from Harrison Ford, because that's the way it's done nowadays. A movie can't be about the original characters. Not anymore. They're just not going to be happy until they've ruined everything. You know what? Just not going to be happy till they've ruined everything. They tried to ruin horror too, and it flopped. They tried to do a remake of Black Christmas, but in the remake, all the female characters banded together to take revenge against the evil killer or whatnot, and so it didn't actually have the vibe of the horror movie that it was supposedly rebooting, and so it flopped. Horror works because you're not afraid of the villain if the villain is easily defeatable by a group of sorority girls getting together to kill him. 80s horror worked because most of the characters, male and female, got murdered, and then it would always boil down to one smart, resourceful, strong female character that came out at the end of it, the final girl. They don't understand that, and so it flopped. Thoughts on Johnny Depp possibly being removed? He's been removed from Pirates of the Caribbean. They're going with Margot Robbie. And I don't know how well that movie's going to be, because I don't even think it's going to be in the same universe as Captain Jack Sparrow. I don't think it's even going to be in the same universe. Will you hang out with Titanfall Princess if she goes to... She ain't going to Retropalooza, but yes, I would if she did. Seventh, what were your thoughts on Fan 4 Stick when you saw it? I thought it was a piece of crap. The Roger Corman Fantastic Four that was never released was a better Fantastic Four than Fan 4 Stick was. And that's the truth. Coming to America or Trading Places, which was better? I like Coming to America better, but I like Trading Places too. The good old stuff that used to be good isn't good now because back then it was PG enough, unlike the current era we're in. Is Trading Places the one with Eddie Murphy and the guy from the Blues Brothers? Dan Aykroyd, yes. The one that has to do with the commodities trading market. Hi, Short Round. How's it going, sir? Or ma'am? Don't really know. I'm assuming since it was Short Round, it's a sir. Saved by my pinchers of peril. Slick shoes. Slick shoes, are you crazy? Of course, that's Data, not Short Round, but same actor. Same actor. Ke Huy Quan, or however it was pronounced. Data. Come on, Dr. Jones. No time for love. Seventh, as a Ghost Rider fan, what'd you think of the Nick Cage movies? There were elements of them that I liked, but mostly disliked. You know, I liked the effects. I liked the way Ghost Rider looked. I just didn't like... the first one was too campy. It felt like a video game, and he was just going through the game, fighting all the bosses, and finding their weak spot to kill each of the bosses. And I just didn't like Nicolas Cage in that role. I love Nicolas Cage, but he didn't act like Johnny Blaze. $2 from Four Horsemen of the Apocalypse. That puts us up to $18.50. Thank you. Break's over. See you later. All right, Four Horsemen. Appreciate the $2. Why'd they make Black Christmas 3 times? I have no idea. That wasn't even one of the better slashers. It was one of the oldest ones, but it wasn't one of the better ones. They're making a Chronicle 2. I actually liked the original Chronicle, but, you know, all the people that were involved in it have moved on to bigger careers, so, you know, is it even going to be really connected to the original? Are any of the originals coming back? Did you think the film Con Air was goofy? Oh yeah, goofy as hell. It's fun, but goofy. Do you think chunking games up like Final Fantasy VII Remake will become more you mean chopping games up, like putting them out in multiple pieces instead of one game? I don't know. I haven't seen that as a trend. You know, Square Enix seems to be the only one doing it. Thoughts on this upcoming Spider-Man movie? I think I'm going to the theaters to see it, especially to see Willem Dafoe and Tobey back. We'll see. All-female cast for Chronicles 2. Is that confirmed? Oh, God. No thanks. The movie doesn't even have that big of a following. Why would they do a she-boot of that? Yes, we already talked about the Suicide Squad movie. It was a funny thing about it, you know, all the advertisements said that it was coming to theaters and HBO Max yesterday, Friday, and I just happened to log on to HBO Max Thursday, and it was like, watch now, Suicide Squad. And I'm like, what the hell? And I texted 8th, and I was like, 8th, Suicide Squad hit HBO Max a day early. And he was like, I'll be there in a minute. And we sat down and watched it a day before it was supposed to come out. I don't know what happened there. Are you going to watch the Chucky TV series? Probably not. 7th, what's your favorite animated Batman movie? Mask of the Phantasm. Are you burnt out on superhero films? Not really. I just don't have a great amount of interest in anything that Marvel have announced for Phase 4 so far. I want to see Doctor Strange 2, and I want to see the new Spider-Man film, and so far, Out of everything they've announced, that's all I'm interested in. There's no option for an external SSD for PS5 yet. Not that I know of. Not that I know of. Yes, seriously. Well, I ain't going to see that. I ain't going to see that. What's your favorite Joker? Mine is Jack Nicholson. Mark Hamill. Why don't you want to see the Chucky TV series? I just don't have any interest in it. I was never a big fan of the Child's Play film series to begin with. Tokes64. What's going on, Tokes? Ain't seen you around here in a while. How you doing, man? Hope your situation's improved a little bit from the last time I talked to you. Everybody got quiet all of a sudden. It's all right. It's all right, other people in the chat. Tokes won't hurt you. Tokes is okay. You can still ask questions. He's cool. 7th, you been playing anything on PS5? On and off. On and off. Like I said, I don't really have a lot of money to be buying new games right now. Too close to Christmas for that. And, you know, I don't have as much fun money for the next 6 months or so. Am I going to check out the Lord of the Rings TV series? I'll watch one episode of it, and if I get a bad vibe from it, I'm not watching the rest of it. All good. Got approved for a huge credit amount from Capital One. What are you going to be using that credit for, Tokes? Got to be careful with credit, man. What are you going to be using it for? Do you think the next PlayStation will be discless? Well, we already have a discless one now. The question is whether there's going to be a disc drive in the next generation or not. I know Microsoft has talked about how they're already in development for the next generation of consoles, but is it going to be recognizable as a console when it comes out, or is it just going to be a physical media-free set-top box? I'm trying to pre-order Tales of Arise for PS5. I already have it on pre-order for 8th for Christmas. Da 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 da. 722. 722. I would have liked to have had more topics to discuss than just all this stupidity that was going around about the PS5 SSD, but you know, it was the one thing I saw people talking about the most aside from Chris Chan, so it's what I went with. 7th, I know you don't really play PC stuff. As 8th hinted he might want a Steam Deck. No, he hasn't expressed any interest in one because he already has a laptop, so he doesn't really have a need for another portable computer. Backup money, only use 10%, more than likely invest in electronics for sale. Got to have twice the amount to pay back the credit card company. I was talking more about the whole living space situation, Tokes. I was hoping that situation had improved for you since the last time I talked to you. Had me kind of worried about you. Had the PS5 since launch, still good, but disk drive sometimes makes a weird noise. I haven't had that issue. Hopefully I'm in a better mood for games. Had to put my dog down on Thursday. Oh, that sucks. That sucks. I had to have one of mine put down a few months ago. So I know how it is. I know what that feels like. In 2023 to 2024, will you get a PS5 Slim? Do you think PS5 Pro is going to happen? I don't know about a Pro. If a Slim comes out, yeah, I'll probably buy one, depending on how much it is. Which reminds me, Sony recently announced that they are already profitable in the sale of the PS5, meaning that they're no longer spending more to make it than they are to sell it. So they've, whether that was contract renegotiations with the suppliers or whether it's just that the parts are becoming cheaper, I don't know. I just know they're saying now they are no longer selling them at a loss. Things are okay. Been at my best friend's house helping her with her mom. It's almost over. It's good to hear. It's good to hear. You had me worried about you, man. That's especially if you're still living out in California, out in that area that you used to be in. It's not a good place to be living the way you were living, bro. Too many things that can happen to you. I don't want nothing to happen to you. I know you like talking to ghosts, but I don't want you talking to ghosts as another ghost anytime soon. You know what I'm saying? Just take care of yourself, man. Would love to see I would love to see a sequel to Dread 2. It's a shame it didn't make more money than it did. I really like that movie. I mean, we have another dog, Maxim. We got a new puppy, as if you've been watching, you know. But it's never easy to lose one. I mean, I've got another one that's 14 years old. I don't suspect he'll be around too much longer, and then we'll just have the one dog that we got this year. But it's never easy to lose one. It always hurts. 7th, how long do you think it'll take for OLED TVs to become affordable? No idea. No idea. Do you have a take on why the Vita failed? Cost too much. It's too expensive. The memory cards were too expensive. And there wasn't enough third-party support for must-have games. And a lot of the stuff that was coming out for it was just portable versions of stuff you could get on the consoles. That's why. And of course, there was no cross-play. So it's not like, you know, you bought the PS3 and then bought the PS3 or PS4 version, you got the Vita version free. That did happen with some stuff, but not everything. I appreciate the love, 7th. I got you back, homie. Cool, man. Cool, Tokes. First quarter of 2021, PS5 games, 71%. Yeah, it's going in that direction, man. I hate it, but that's the direction things are going. Hey, 7th, have you seen Jungle Cruise? Nope. Alitalia ripoff from the pirate. What is Alitalia? I don't know what you mean by Alitalia. Ripoff from the Pirates of the Caribbean. And yeah, the Vita wasn't marketed very well. Because, you know I avoid politics, Smith. I make no exceptions. They marketed it as the home console experience in the palm of your hand. And while it could do that, there are, and I think to some extent the Switch proves this, there are some genres that just don't feel as good to me as a handheld. I think they work better sitting in front of a big TV with a controller or with a mouse and keyboard. What dormant PlayStation franchise would you like them to bring back? Legend of Dragoon. That's going to be my answer every time someone asks me that question, which is almost every 7th cast. I will ride the physical games until it sinks. Same here. Did you like the Purge films? Not at all. Not a single one of them. I think they're stupid. That is a dumb franchise to me. Not a fan. No. No. Not a fan. No. No. Nobody's asked me about He-Man yet, which surprises me. God, that show sucks. Animation's great. Show sucks. Writing's terrible. What the hell happened, Kevin Smith? Good Lord. And, I love Mark Hamill. But he needs to come up with some new voices, because now Skeletor basically just kind of sounds like campier, lower key Joker. When I think of Skeletor, I don't think of Mark Hamill's Joker. I think of freaking Skeletor. Evil Lynn. You blubbering bloobs. That's what I think of when I think of Skeletor. I don't think of his Joker. That was another thing I missed, was that Skeletor never refers to one of the bad guys as a boob in the new He-Man. He was calling his henchmen boobs all the time. You blubbering boob. He doesn't do it in this show. And it's not about He-Man. He-Man dies in the first episode, and then it's all about Teela. It's just another gender swap. And Kevin Smith swore that's not what it was going to be. And that was what it was right in the first episode. Right in the first episode. Yeah, I'm not watching any more reboots of anything. Period. Not doing it. I'm done. Y'all have done screwed up enough. I'm watching the originals over again, and I'm watching the original series, and that's it. Y'all can take every single reboot you have planned right now and shove it. What was your take on Chris Chan? I'm surprised that anyone was shocked by it. The man is incredibly susceptible to influence. He will do or believe anything that you tell him. They told him that he would get laid more if he became a lesbian trans woman. He's not really trans. He's not. He was convinced by trolls that if he became a trans woman, that lesbians would want to sleep with him. That's why he did it. He wanted to get laid. And he thought that it would be easier for him to get laid because they convinced him that the majority of women out there now are lesbian, and that's why he wasn't finding a boyfriend-free girl. He was convinced by one single troll that, multi-universe theory is true, and that every fictional character that's ever been created by anyone ever is alive and well living in a parallel universe, and that he could travel to it. So now that has evolved to him believing that he's this transdimensional god who can zip back and forth between dimensions and have the spirits of his own animated characters possess him and speak through him. Just because a troll told him. He will believe anything that anyone tells him. And I guarantee you that it will come out that there's been some troll who has been steering him in the direction of, it'd probably be a good idea if you stuffed your own mom. I guarantee it. It'll come out eventually. There'll be something about it, if it hasn't already, that he's been steered in this direction for months, if not long before that, by some troll on Kiwi Farms. I guarantee it. Chris Chan is an empty, soulless husk, I should say. Empty, soulless husk that is just filled with all the things that trolls have put into him, or her, however you want to put it, over the last 20 years. He is the product of his own fan base, which was really his own troll base. And really, that's the fault of his parents. That's the fault of his parents allowing him to be influenced by trolls over the last 20 years. Most of them being from 4chan up until a certain point. Now it's, some people were looking out for him on Kiwi Farms, but there was just as many trolls, wanting to further mess with him on there as well. So, he is what these people made him. That's all he is. He is a product. He is a living, walking meme. Going to produce a horror animation series. Well, good luck with that, Tokes. I like me some animated horror. Thoughts on old school He-Man? I mean, it was made on the cheap, but I liked it as a kid. It wasn't my favorite show. I was more of a Transformers and G.I. Joe guy, but, I liked He-Man. I had some of the toys. I never had Castle Grayskull. I had He-Man and Battle Cat and Skeletor and some of the other characters. Couple of the vehicles, the cheaper ones. But I never had, like, Castle Grayskull or any of the big stuff, and I never had a whole bunch of He-Man figures. I had just a couple, handful, less than 10. 7th, how does an online zombie survival simulator Rogue sound to you? 8th might play it. I wouldn't. Do you watch Maximilian Dude? I have no idea what that is. Was Thundercats a ripoff of He-Man? Sorta. And then in turn, Silverhawks was a ripoff of Thundercats, made by the same company, but it's the exact same concept, only it's birds instead of cats. And they're cyborg birds instead of just, hybrid bird humanoid creature, cat humanoid creatures. But then again, He-Man was a ripoff too. He-Man borrowed a lot from one of Filmation's earlier series, which was called Black Star, and it borrowed a lot, as far as the original toy line goes, from Conan. They were looking to make a bunch of Conan movies, and then the Conan movie came out, and it was rated R and had a lot of nudity in it. So they were like, well, we'll just make up our own He-Man that's safe for kids so they'll buy our toys. They licensed it to Filmation to make a series, and Filmation was like, well, nobody watched Black Star, so we'll just borrow a bunch of stuff from Black Star, and that's what they did. In turn, Black Star was kind of a ripoff of an older Hanna-Barbera show, which was called Thundar the Barbarian. And Thundar also had a few elements here and there from some of Hanna-Barbera's previous shows. Like there was one that was like I can't remember his name, but he was a barbarian type superhero. He had like a helmet with horns coming out. I can't remember his name. And of course the Herculoids. So, He-Man was never by any means the most original property out there. But it was fun. And this new one, though, do you think the Kevin Butler era of marketing was the best they ever had? Yes, absolutely, without question. Do you think if there's a PS5 Pro, it'll be discless? No idea. Did you watch the A-Team? Yes, I did. Well, I'm feeling sick. I must go now. Bye. Bye, Master Chief. Maximilian Dude is a YouTuber who plays mostly fighting games. Well, that would explain why I don't watch him. I'm not a big fighting game fan. The only fighting game videos I watch are the ones that Titanfall Princess puts out. Anyone watch Terra Hawks back in the day? I haven't heard of that one. What about Voltron? I loved Voltron. I didn't care about the vehicle one, though. I only liked the lion one. Do you ever collect portable JRPGs for 3DS and Vita? I have a few. Yeah, I have a few. I would say that I have all the best ones for Vita. Not all of them, but the best ones. Like Tales of Hearts R and stuff like that. Ease, Memory of Celceta. I've got some other ones too. Not as many on 3DS. I've only got a couple on 3DS. My 3DS collection is pretty small. Not very big at all. In fact, I'd say I've got less than 20 3DS games. Got a bunch of Vita, but far less on 3DS. Do you think killing off Dumbledore was a mistake or too soon? I don't know that it was a mistake. You have to have some drama. You have to be able to show that the threat is real. And the only way that you can show that a threat is real, really, you're not going to feel it so much by just killing off a bunch of, for lack of a better term, NPCs. It has to be someone that the audience cares about, so they feel the hurt. So, if it wasn't going to be Dumbledore, then it would have been Professor McGonagall or someone like that, but even she might not have had the same impact, so it had to be Dumbledore. And plus, that's a whole part of the whole hero's journey story arc, where their mentor dies and they have to carry on without their mentor. It's just with Star Wars, you got it in the very first movie. I loved Rift Apart, but I think it was a little too short. It had about the same length overall. It's just that it didn't have quite as many extracurricular activities. Like, it didn't have any of the rocket boot races from the previous games. And I think they made it a little bit easier so more kids could get into it. Ulysses 31 was a dope cartoon. I can remember watching reruns of Gigantor. They only showed it on the local UHF station when I was a kid. You couldn't see it on cable or anything. And so I had, back then I didn't have my own color TV. I had a little 12-inch black and white TV that sat on a little table next to my bed. And it only got the 3 main channels in town and that UHF station. And so one day I was flipping, just trying to find something I wanted to watch, and here was this kid with a remote control piloting this giant robot, and I was like, ooh. That was the first anime I ever saw, was Gigantor. And I've been watching anime in some form or another ever since. Of course, once I got to be a teenager, I started discovering the darker stuff like Akira and Berserk, and well, not Berserk. Berserk wasn't until like 1997, and I was an adult by then. I was like 22 or 23. But I've always liked anime. Do you think the next PlayStation, everything, we will get a trailer for God of War? I'm sure there's a trailer coming. I just don't know exactly when. My favorite superhero and favorite villain. Favorite villain's the Joker. Always has been. My favorite superhero, oddly enough, since it was brought up, is Ghost Rider. I was obsessed with Ghost Rider. I just thought he was the stuff, man. And I discovered Ghost Rider not during the Johnny Blaze era, but the Danny Ketch era. That had a much darker tone. It was almost like reading a horror comic. You had guys getting murdered. It was almost, it was as closest at that time that Marvel got to the darkness that was in Spawn, when Spawn came out. Ghost Rider during that era, those first 11 or 12 issues of Series 2 of Ghost Rider with Danny Ketch was some dark stuff, man. And that artwork by Tex Aviera, and it was so great. And it's not that I don't like Robbie Reyes or any of the other Ghost Riders. It's just that Danny Ketch was the one that I discovered Ghost Rider through when I was a teenager. And I mean, Johnny Blaze was in it, but at that point he wasn't the Ghost Rider. He was kind of the mentor to Danny Ketch. And I just loved that comic, and he has remained my favorite overall ever since. People really underestimate Ghost Rider. Ghost Rider is a tremendously powerful character. People don't realize it, but Ghost Rider is one of the most powerful characters in the Marvel Universe. You just don't see him or her utilize the amount of power that's actually there. There's been a few examples over the existence of the character, but he is tremendously powerful. If he had been in the MCU, he could have taken out Thanos himself with very little difficulty. That's how powerful Ghost Rider is. And the snap really probably wouldn't have done much to him. And I'm hoping that, and there's been rumors about it, that since we're getting into the more supernatural side of the Marvel Universe with these new films, that possibly we get introduced to Ghost Rider in the next Doctor Strange film, even if it's just a brief cameo of seeing him. I hope they show him. And, while I have a bias, I would like to see the Danny Ketch version. I would rather see Johnny Blaze be reimagined and rebooted rather than Robbie Reyes. Because for me, Ghost Rider rides a motorcycle, not a Dodge Charger or Challenger or whatever it was he was driving in the show. 7th, could they do a good reboot of Lost in Space, one that was okay? I haven't disliked the Netflix show. I kind of liked the Netflix show, but that Lost in Space movie from like 1999 or whenever it was, oh my God, that movie was terrible. Terrible. That little chirpy girl that was playing the middle sister, she was so annoying. She was so annoying. I could not stand every scene she was in. Do you think the film Speed had a good villain? Well, yeah, Dennis Hopper was tremendous. He's good in just about everything. He was the only good, really, he was one of the only good parts of the Super Mario Brothers movie. Kratos versus He-Man. I gotta go with Kratos. I gotta go with Kratos. He-Man basically just has super strength, and that's about it. We've already seen how Kratos handles people with superhuman strength. He killed Hercules. If he can kill Hercules, he can kill He-Man. It's pretty much the same thing. Have you ever seen the movie Chef with Jon Favreau? No. Ghost Rider versus Scorpion. Ghost Rider's more powerful than Scorpion. Ghost Rider would wipe the floor with Scorpion. Definitely the great Nothing Burger that some biased YouTubers jumped the gun on. His video was pretty slandered. Yeah. Ghost Rider defeated Galactus with ease. He's defeated a lot of people with ease. If you go through the comics history of the character, it's like I said, people think of him as a B and C list character, but he's one of the most powerful in the Marvel Universe. Nick Cage was just taking a paycheck. I don't think he's done a good movie since The Weatherman. I have heard that this new movie that he's got out called Pig is really good, but I haven't seen it. What are your thoughts on the upgrade to Switch? Not an upgrade I need. Wasn't enough of an upgrade. Has there been a music artist who you didn't like at first but eventually grew to love the music? Not really. I can usually, with most artists that I sit down to listen to, I will either instantly really like it or instantly really hate it. I don't really have a middle ground. Seventh, if Marvel or DC started making movies for true fans and stayed true to the comics, it would blow up instead of marketing to little kids. Well, I mean, look at the Deadpool movies. Is what it is. Are you looking forward to seeing Deadpool 3? New writers and director, but still rated R. We'll see. We'll see. What is Ghost Rider's power? Why is he so strong? He's the embodiment of the spirit of vengeance, depending on which version of Ghost Rider you're looking at. A very powerful denizen of hell. So he's impervious to a lot of things. He's mostly indestructible. there's not really a way to kill him and him stay dead. And he has multiple powers beyond just, a flaming chain and the penance stare. He's been shown to be able to cause destruction on a cataclysmic level if allowed to. And he's defeated a lot of the more powerful characters in the Marvel Universe. He's an enforcer from hell, basically Marvel's equivalent to Spawn. And so he's able to tap into all the, supernatural energy and destruction that hell brings. That's basically who Ghost Rider is. Who's a better shredder, you or Eighth? Eighth is still learning guitar. He's in the very beginning stages of it. He doesn't have the passion for it that he thought he would, so he's still learning it, but he's learning it at a very slow pace. So he's not where I'm at. And I'm not exactly a great guitarist myself, but, I can do a lot more than Eighth can because he's still just, getting his feet wet. Penance Stare is overpowered as hell. It is a very powerful weapon. But it also requires him to get close enough to the character to use it, and the character has to have a soul. If the character doesn't have a soul, the Penance Stare is useless. Yeah, well, it's my understanding they're bringing back Gunn for the third Guardians of the Galaxy, so hopefully it's good. If you don't count the 5-hour games in your collection, how many legit platinums? I have no idea. I've never stopped to look. Yes, the Spawn reference. Hey, 7th, are you worried that Amazon's going to screw up Middle-earth? I'm almost certain they will, but we'll see. How do you think the new Indiana Jones movie will be? I'm worried that it'll make the fourth one look like a great film. Maybe I'm wrong, but that's the vibe I'm getting. Why do people think Superman is boring? Look at Doctor Doom. He's boring and people love him. I wouldn't say Doctor Doom is boring. He's been a very interesting character over the years. It just depends on what period of comic history that you're looking at when looking at Doctor Doom. And there's been some really interesting Superman stories too. It's just he's a character that, you have to put some kind of a limit on him to where he has an actual challenge. That's the difficulty of writing for Superman. You have to find some way where there's a chance he could lose. Do you think the Penance Stare would work on Pinhead from Hellraiser? No, I don't think so. Especially not after the human side of him was removed and only the evil remained. So there's not a soul in there. It's just concentrated evil. I don't think the Penance Stare would do much to him. I still think Ghost Rider would win. But he wouldn't be able to do it with the Penance Stare. He'd have to be able to do it with something else. Are you planning to see the Sonic sequel in theaters? No. I liked the first Sonic movie, but I'm still not to the point where I'm willing to go to a theater yet. We'll see how things are in the fall. Because, I'm fully vaccinated, but with them talking about how, you may need booster shots and whatnot. And they're saying it would still have full strength after 6 months. Well, I'll hit 5 months since vaccinated when Retropalooza happens. So, we'll just see. But on top of that, it's like, why pay $8, $9, $10 for a movie ticket and then spend, $20, $30 on popcorn and drinks when I have a 70-inch screen at home? and I can watch it in the comfort of my recliner without anybody else sitting around me that I don't know and talking through the movie and coughing and doing all this other crap. Having to listen to their kids cry. Would Ghost Rider lose against Doctor Strange? I'm sure Doctor Strange could find a way to trap Ghost Rider or stop him if he was to go rogue or anything, but be able to kill Ghost Rider? No. I don't think so. Seventh, are you a proponent of adding storage, or do you prefer... I usually just delete stuff. Usually. I have never gone out and bought a bigger hard drive for a console. Never done that. Never needed to. I play a game, I finish it, I uninstall it. If I want to play it again later, I reinstall it. Do you have any death battle requests? Not really. Do you think the penance stare could work on Kratos? Potentially. Whether it would affect him or not, though, because basically the penance stare inflicts upon you all the pain you've ever inflicted on others. But Kratos has already been through so much pain, I don't think it would bother him that much. Are theaters dead to you? Maybe forever. Sounds like you would watch everything at home if given the option. Yeah, I would watch everything at home because it's cheaper. And I have a big-ass TV, so, there is a certain thing to be said about the experience of going to a theater, but for me at this point, it's mostly nostalgia. Because that's what I did when I was a kid and when I was a teenager. Every summer, I was at the mall every weekend to go see whatever the newest movie was. It was part of my summer ritual. Not so much a part of it anymore. And even, when 8th was a kid, that was part of our summer every year, was every weekend. We were at the theater to see the newest thing. So there's a nostalgia level to it. But, if all movies were released the same day on home as they were on theater, I'd never go to a theater. Seventh, I remember in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., Ghost Rider went into some dark matter universe and they said nothing can come back from that, and he came back and I knew this thing was... Yeah, exactly. And you also saw in Agent of S.H.I.E.L.D. that, Ghost Rider can open interdimensional doors just like Doctor Strange. He just spins his chain and opens a door and walks through it. Look it up, man. There's videos about it. Look up videos on YouTube about how powerful Ghost Rider is. I think you'll be surprised. If all you ever thought was that he was mainly a melee character who could burn your soul from the inside out if he got close enough to you, think again. You can potentially kill Ghost Rider's human host, Raymond. But killing Ghost Rider himself is a totally different thing. You got to remember, Ghost Rider is a spirit embodying a human host. He's kind of like Venom. He's a separate personality living within that body. And in the original one, he was Zarathos, who was a demonic entity from hell. Danny Ketch Ghost Rider was not Zarathos. He was a different spirit of vengeance. I can't remember what his name was. It was eventually revealed, but I don't remember who it was. It's been a long time. But that's the thing you have to remember. You can kill the host, potentially, when he's in his human form anyway. But then the Ghost Rider can just find a new host and come right back. Could the penance stare work on Darth Sidious? Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. If Darth Sidious could almost die just by having his, well, and literally die in the god awful sequel trilogy, just by having his own lightning reflected back at him, what do you think the Ghost Rider would do to him? Good Lord. All there'd be left was a puddle. Ghost Rider versus Spawn. Now that would be an interesting fight because they're basically the same character in a lot of ways. I think they'd probably end up killing each other. I think they'd both end up just taking each other out. Although, I don't know if it's still true, but back when the Spawn character first came out, he only had a limited amount of hell power within him. And the idea was that once he had depleted all that power, it was over for him. Whereas Ghost Rider, there is no limit. He can use as much hell power as he wants. I don't know if Spawn is still that way, because I stopped reading it, when I was a teenager, and I got out of collecting comics. But that's the way he was in the original. I have no idea if that's still true now. Ghost Rider versus Doctor Doom. I'm not sure. He may have already defeated Doctor Doom at some point. You'd be surprised how many characters that Ghost Rider's defeated. Like I said, look it up, man. There's videos on it. You might be surprised. Oh, goodness. Look what time it is. One hour remaining. We have 1 hour remaining, and we are at $18.50. So we're still a long way from just extending by 1 hour. And I'm terrible at math in my head, so... Oh. We're $31.50 short of the 10 o'clock extension. Wish Ghost Rider had a better film. I do too. I wish we had a hard R-rated Ghost Rider film. Like, at least as violent as a John Wick movie. But it needs to have a lot of horror and a lot of gore. Because that was part of the problem with the original Ghost Rider film, is they treated it as your typical superhero movie. And that's not what Ghost Rider is. Yes, he's a superhero, but he's a horror character. He's supposed to be terrifying to people. No one is supposed to see Ghost Rider ripping down the road and be like, yeah, go, Ghost Rider, go, save the day. They're supposed to piss themselves and run for their lives. And that's part of what they got wrong with it. It just had your typical superhero vibe. And Ghost Rider needs to be a hard R, gore-filled horror fest, where the hero just happens to be this demon-possessed thing. This demon-possessed, unstoppable thing. Batman could find a way not to kill Ghost Rider, but to stop him. Because that's what Batman does. He does his research, finds out what all potential weaknesses there are there, and he'd find a way. Not to kill him, but to just stop him or slow him down. You can't really kill what can just come back in another body, Where's the farthest you've ever drove? From where I lived in North Carolina to Texas. That's the farthest I've ever drove. Ghost Rider has a real tragic backstory as a carnival freak, right? No, he wasn't a carnival freak. He was a He was a stunt bike driver at a carnival, at a kind of a evil Knievel type character. Thoughts on extraterrestrial life? When I see an extraterrestrial life, I'll let you know. Thoughts on Tim Burton's Batman? I love that movie, but it's not so much a great Batman movie. It's just a good Tim Burton movie. Batman doesn't have any supernatural abilities. No, he doesn't. But, you know, it shows you in Justice League, in both the comics and some of the animated movies, that he has a plan for how to kill every other superpowered person in the Justice League if the need arose. Is what it is. He's like a doomsday prepper. He prepares for every contingency. So he is prepared for the contingency of any of the other Justice League members going evil. How do I stop them? Has all the plans in place, including Superman. Because that's what Batman is. He don't trust nobody. He'll trust him a little bit, but he always plans for just in case he can't trust him anymore. So we have 55 minutes left, unless another $31.50 hits. So get your questions in. Did you like the Loki TV series? No, I did not, because it was another emasculation of an established character and putting more focus on a female replacement. It's just the same pattern that we've had for starting back in 2014. And to make the female character strong, they have to make the male character weak. So, you know, Loki wasn't really this, you know, Norse god evil badass. He just never got enough attention from his daddy. So he acts out this way because he craves the attention and he's insecure and he's this and he's that. Why couldn't he just stay as Loki? You know, they have to psychoanalyze him and they have to demasculinize him and they have to make him weak. And he's this emotionally weak character. And the female Loki is better than him at everything, from fighting to planning to etc., etc. It's just the same shit over and over again lately. Have you ever been to New York? Nope. There was a plan at one point for me and the second Mrs. Seventh to go to New York, but it never happened. The money just didn't come together. And by the time I was making the kind of money to be able to do it, she and I had parted ways because she didn't want to come to Texas with me. Thoughts on the upcoming Jesus Christ game? Rumors it will take 3. I know there's a Jesus Christ game out there. I've seen trailers for it. I don't remember the name of it. It's some indie thing. But I don't really have any interest in playing it. It's not one that's on my wish list, to say the least. Nope. Good God. By the way, earlier when I was doing lines from Skeletor, that's the first time that I've ever attempted to do an impersonation of Skeletor. So I know it ain't perfect. I haven't had years and years to work on it, like, you know, Dr. Evil and all, you know, the other ones that I've done over the years. That was my very first attempt. You basically have to talk way up in your nose. Do you think they'll make a Moses game? Well, they made a Noah game. You had Noah's Ark on the NES. Didn't they wasn't there an NES game called Exodus? I wanted to say there was. Maybe I'm thinking of something else. I wonder if there was, and you get to the part where you have to part the sea, if you have to hit A and B just as fast as you can to make the water slowly part. I don't, I don't know. I don't know. I am almost out of juice. And once I'm out of juice, that's it. Can't buy the stuff no more. Can't afford it. Gotta pay on my stupid student loan. Darn shame that old President Biden decided that he wasn't going to be doing any student loan forgiveness like he said he was when he was campaigning, huh? Of course, that's political, so I'm not going to get into that, but so I'm just going to, own up to my responsibilities and pay it. Of course, I'll never pay it off. I'll be dead before I pay it off, but, I remember the Disney World trip you uploaded to YouTube. When was that? 2015. Which was more of a lonely life, Castaway or I Am Legend? Well, Castaway, he eventually made it back home. I Am Legend, there wasn't a home to go back to. His home was the way it was, and he just, died before he could ever see that he wasn't the last human left alive. Aside from, the woman and daughter that he found. What's your take on the Blizzard Activision situation? If it turns out to be true, they deserve everything they get for it, even though I doubt that they'll suffer from it much. You'll have a couple of people that resign and get golden parachutes and go to work somewhere else, and then they'll act like that was sufficient enough and move on with their day. It's the way it always happened, whether it be Hollywood or the game industry. Although, I think it's possible that Weinstein could end up doing some actual time. Why does Epcot look like a golf ball? Well, no, it's not Epcot. It's a ride in Epcot called Spaceship Earth. And it takes you through the history of communication, and the train track slowly winds its way in a circle up to the top of that sphere and then comes back down backwards. And so they built it that way, basically to accommodate the ride track without it just being some regular flat building, and to be the symbol of the park, which the park basically, Epcot, is a World's Fair that never closed down. And if you've ever been to previous World Fairs, they always had one big iconic structure that was the symbol of that World's Fair. Like, for example, the 1982 World's Fair, they built the Sun Sphere Tower in Knoxville, Tennessee, and that tower is still there today. In fact, The Simpsons did an episode about it, where Bart had a chance to go to Disney World, and instead he decided he wanted to go see the Sun Sphere in Knoxville, and then he goes to it, and he goes up to the top of it, goes inside, and there's like a bunch of wigs or something in there. There's like literally nothing to it. And he realizes that, he made a poor decision, that he could have gone to Disney World. Instead, he went to this. Why did the film Legion suck so bad? I liked Legion. I mean, it was a low-budget movie. There was only so much they were going to be able to do with that story, but I liked it. Yes, I've played What Remains of Edith Finch. I completed it. I never 100%ed it because I missed a couple of things in my first playthrough, and I just didn't feel like playing through it again once I'd seen all the story. Wasn't I Am Legend a reimagining of Omega Man? No. The original novel is called I Am Legend, and the movie was based more on the novel, not as a reimagining of Omega Man. And in fact, Omega Man was not the first time that I Am Legend had been adapted to film. It had been adapted before that. It was a Vincent Price movie, I think. And it was called like The Last Man on Earth or something like that. Can't remember the name of it. Did you like the film The Crazies? Not especially. Wasn't one of my favorite from him. Have you been to Disneyland, California? No, I've never been to California. Always wanted to go, but it's just a heck of a drive. I don't really care to fly. Disney World was always way closer and it's way bigger, so I never saw a point of going to the one in California. Really, if there was any other Disney park that I'd want to go to besides the one in Florida, I'd want to go to Tokyo Disneyland before I'd go to the one in California, simply because I'd love to go to Disney Sea. That just looks like a really amazing park that I'd love to go to. I wish they'd build a version of it in Florida, but I guess Japan wanted something that would never be at any of the other parks, so it is what it is. All right, somebody already asked me about Ghost Rider and Spawn. Better Misfits team-up film, Mystery Men, Guardians of the Galaxy, or the Suicide Squad? I really like them all equally, but for different reasons. I mean, obviously, Mystery Men is way more of a comedy than the other two are. I mean, they're all funny, but Mystery Men is more of a straight-up comedy with superhero elements, where the other ones are comedic superhero films. I know that's a very thin line, but it is a definite line. $45 minutes left, folks. 45 minutes left, $31.50 short. Keep the questions coming. We still got time to kill here. Al. Yes, I know Gabriel and Michael are biblical names. They're both Hebrew names. Gabriel and Michael. Michael being the archangel. Gabriel being the trumpet sounder. Mystery Men, I couldn't get into it back in the day. I need to revisit it. I still watch it at least once a year. I love it. I love that movie. I mean, it is a very, very 90s movie. It feels very 90s to go back and watch it. But I love it. Were Gabriel and Michael related? Well, as much as one angel can be related to another angel, I guess. Michael was the archangel. He was the leader of the angelic armies. The one that in one of the Old Testament stories slaughtered an army of 100,000 soldiers in a day. Yeah, he's like, short of God himself, he's like the supreme badass of the Bible. In your opinion, which actor stole the shoe in the Suicide Squad? My vote goes to Viola Davis. Who is my favorite character in the Suicide Squad? I really liked Idris Elba. I mean, he wasn't the most original character. He was basically just, another character that was very similar to Will Smith's character from the first film, but I really liked him. I liked him better in that role than Will Smith in his role, because Will Smith in the original Suicide Squad wasn't really allowed to be Will Smith. He was playing the part a lot more straight than he normally plays in a film like that. He wasn't allowed to be Will Smith. And so, I liked Idris Elba in his role better than Will Smith in his. What the F is Bible Black about, anyways? I couldn't tell you. I've only seen like a few minutes of one episode and I turned it off once I realized what it was. Why doesn't the Yeti animatronic move anymore? You mean in Expedition Everest? Because they mounted it right on one of the main structural support struts for the whole coaster. And its repetitive, its constant movement was slowly weakening the support structure of the coaster. So they had to turn off the motion because of the damage that it was doing. And they can't fix it without taking a side of the mountain off and completely redoing all that structure. And that's why it still to this day hasn't been fixed. Why was Gabriel so loyal to God but Michael wasn't? I don't know, Shadow. You'd have to ask the author. Nothing that happened besides the names and the fact that they were angels. Nothing that happens in the movie Legion is based on any actual scripture. I guess you could say that they drew inspiration from Revelations, but everything that you see in it isn't really in Revelations. Do you have a favorite twist ending in any media? Not really. Not really. Nothing springs to mind. I mean, I liked that it was Tony Stark who ended up finally stopping Thanos, but I wouldn't necessarily say that was a twist, because they were kind of setting that up through the whole movie, that he had the most to lose, so of course he's gonna end up being the one that gives up the most. They pretty much telegraphed that from the very beginning of Endgame. But I guess that's the closest to a twist ending that I really liked, even though I wouldn't say it was much of a twist. The Nathan Fillion Civilian Pavilion. That was one disappointment I had with Suicide Squad, is that Nathan Fillion was only in it for like 5 minutes, and then he's not in it for the rest of the movie. Same thing with Peter Davidson. He's in it for the first 5 minutes, and then he's not in it for the rest of the movie. Ever heard of the spelunking tragedy of John Jones? No. Would you agree that Returnal feels more like a homage to the films Alien and Groundhog Day? It's definitely got some inspiration there, especially not so much Alien itself, but H.R. Geiger type stuff. Sci-fi horror. A little bit of Kubrick thrown in there too. I'd say there's a lot of it that feels more like 2001 than Alien, really, if you stop to think about it, with all the metaphysical stuff and is she really seeing what she thinks she's seeing and all that kind of thing. Captain America should have stopped Thanos, not Iron Man. Well, I think thematically it was more fitting for Iron Man to be the one that stopped him, because Iron Man is what started off the whole MCU. It started with the first Iron Man film. So the plot of all of it started with Tony Stark and it ended with Tony Stark. That just makes story-wise sense. Thoughts on Black Widow tanking? What'd they expect? They'd already killed off the character. And this was a side story that didn't really add anything to what everyone had already seen. Black Widow should have come out instead of Captain Marvel. Captain Marvel should have come out after Endgame, and Captain Marvel should not have been in either of those Avengers films, Infinity War or Endgame, beefed up Black Widow's character and had somebody else come in during the final fight to save the day, not Captain Marvel, and put the Black Widow film in that spot because she had earned it as a character. She deserved it. Captain Marvel did not. And then have the Captain Marvel movie come out after Endgame. That was a mistake. Have you seen every MCU movie? Yes. So Black Widow movie should have come out in Captain Marvel's time slot prior to Endgame coming out. If they had done that, movie would have been a hit, but they didn't do that, so it tanked. Now, I think Black Widow, you know, it probably should have come out somewhere around after Thor 2. Is probably where it should have happened. I don't think she really would have earned her own film until after the first Avengers film came out. So sometime after the first Avengers film is when that movie should have been made. Captain Marvel was a flop compared to other Marvel movies. It didn't make the money they expected it to. It still made money, but it didn't make money the way they expected it to, and a lot of people spoke out about it and didn't like it. And didn't like her being shoehorned into the Avengers Endgame either. Thoughts on the song Strawberry Fields Forever? I'm not a big Beatles fan. There's a couple of songs by them I like, but, you know, I'm not obsessed with them the way other people are. May be controversial, but I think that the Beach Boys' Pet Sounds album is better than any album of the Beatles ever put out. But that's just me. And that's because Brian Wilson was insane. Who wins in a fight, Superman or Thanos? Superman. Got to remember that Superman limits himself. When you see Superman in a superhero movie, you're not seeing Superman at his most powerful. He has internal mental blocks that he's set up to prevent himself from going full power because he knows how overpowered he is. So if he came across somebody like Thanos, he would just remove a couple of those blocks until he felt he had sufficient power to instantly kill him or stop him, and then he'd put the blocks back after he was done. That's one of the reasons why it's so hard to write Superman, because they've made him so OP at this point that, you know, you really have to come up with new ways to give him a challenge. It's just the way it is. Captain Marvel is my favorite character, though. Well, I feel sorry for you. 7th, how many Guitar Hero controllers are sitting in a landfill right now? God knows. Although now they're starting to become... used to, you could walk into any GameStop and there'd be dozens of them lying around. They'd be selling them for $5. Now they're way expensive because so many have been thrown away that they've become rare. So they go for a lot more money than they used to. Do you think the Suicide Squad is what the first one should have been like? Yes. Another $3 from Jacoby Man. Might as well say $3. So we'll put it up to 20. We'll just say it's $21. Ever wonder why the DCEU decided to go full hardcore rated R for all of the recent films? Well, not really. You know, the only one has been the Snyder cut that I can think of. You know, Shazam wasn't R rated. Wonder Woman 2 wasn't R rated. The Flash, I don't think, is going to be R rated. Aquaman wasn't R rated. The only one I can think of is the Snyder cut. What's up, 7th? It's been a while. What's up, BitCloud? Heard you hit 10,000 subs. Congrats, man. Thoughts on Rain Man? It's a movie that I liked, but it's not one that, you know, I have a desire to watch over and over again. Do you think... Oh, sorry, Clean Frame. Do you think the upcoming Ghostbusters is going to be better? Yes. It's absolutely going to be better than the 2016 version. Is it going to be as good as the first two? I have my doubts simply because of the fact that Egon is dead. So it really... And plus, the majority of the story is about Egon's grandkids, and the original Ghostbusters are going to be supporting characters that show up later in the film. So I think at best you might get 15 to 20 minutes of the actual original Ghostbusters back in their uniforms doing their thing. And that most of it is going to be Egon's kids. I don't really have a problem with that. But because of who all's involved and who wrote it and who's directing it, I do think it's going to be better than the 2016 film. Because the 2016 film didn't understand what Ghostbusters was. Ghostbusters, the original Ghostbusters, was a supernatural action horror hybrid with comedy elements. They played it straight. Whereas Ghostbusters 2016 was a full-on slapstick comedy. It was like a parody of the first Ghostbuster film. Totally different tone. And it was the wrong tone. Captain Marvel would kick Ghost Rider's butt. I will agree to disagree. Again, go watch some videos on how powerful Ghost Rider is. Superman is so OP that Darkseid cloned his powers and wiped out the Justice League, Dark, Teen Titans, and the Suicide Squad at the same time. And see, yeah. The animated DC films are rated R. Not all of them, just some of them. No problem, BitCloud. It's a pretty big achievement. I mean, I've only made the highest I ever got was 18,000, and I've lost 3,000 since then. So now I'm down to 15,000. So hitting 10,000, you know, as far as I'm concerned, any upward movement is a good movement. I've been stuck in the same general zone for years now. Every time I gain subs, I lose that same amount of subs within a few days. So it'll say, you have gained 30 subs. And then a few days later, you lost 30 subs. It's the most insane crap. Do you think the first Suicide Squad was underrated? Not really, and I've seen the extended cut. They say the producers got the permission from Harold Ramis's family to add him into the film as a deepfake. Yeah, but he's probably just going to show up as a ghost, and I mean, who's going to do his voice? Hey, 7th, how about you and I collaborate on a Ghost Rider animated fan-made gore film? I don't know anything about animation, man. I know nothing about animation. I'd love to see a real hard R Ghost Rider film, but, you know, I don't know anything about animation at all. You know, if you wanted me to do some voice acting for it, like, you know, put a couple of filters on my voice and, you know, guilty and, you know, shit like that, I'd do that. Try making a new channel. I've done that before. I don't care enough about, you know, being some big success on YouTube to make a second channel. It's harder in some ways. It's easier to get monetized these days, but in some ways it's also harder. So, I don't care enough to start over. Just doesn't the idea of it doesn't appeal to me. I don't care about having 500,000 subs and making lots of money off of it. I don't care about all that crap. And I'm a 46-year-old man. I'm graying. I'm not exactly the demographic that YouTube goes after these days. My fan base is as big as it's ever going to get. That's just the reality. Was the Avengers video game that came out really that bad? Most of the people that I know who've played it say it is. I haven't played it. I don't. If it shows up on Game Pass, I might play it on Game Pass just to test it out and do a review. But that's it. I have no interest in paying money for that. None. Are you good at chess? Not really. I know how to play chess, and I learned a few of the more well-known strategies and whatnot, but I wouldn't say that I'm like good at it. I could be good at it if I've cared enough to invest time in learning it, but I know how all the pieces move, and I know some of the more classic strategies that people learn, but that's about it. Just never cared enough about it to get really good at it. Which is true of a lot of things with me. There's a lot of things with me where I'm adequate at something, but I didn't care enough about it to become really good at it. Master of all trades, or jack of all trades, master of none. That's pretty much me in a nutshell. I could be making six figures right now as a network administrator. But once I got my degree in network engineering, it didn't interest me enough to pursue a career in it. And so I never did. And so, instead of making six figures, I'm making a little over 60 grand a year is what it is. Why did the console war mindset among gamers go out of fashion? It didn't. People still argue in the console war stuff on Twitter all the time and on forums. It went out of style on YouTube because the people that replaced the original generation of the YouTube console wars are little, sensitive millennials that can't take an insult. And so if you try to disprove their opinion or speak out against their opinion, they try to get you flagged and taken off YouTube. That's what killed it. Not a desire to, not a desire to debate or anything, but just really thin-skinned individuals that care more about increasing their sub count and growing their little cultish fan bases than actually debating anything. Did you find Téa Leoni attractive? No. We have about 23 minutes left. $23 minutes and we're at $21. Or what, $29 short of the $50 goal? Is what it is. Yeah, not so much on YouTube anymore, aside from when me and General MLD go back and forth. And even then, when he's made reply videos to me, he doesn't get as many views as when he just, speaks out about something general about PlayStation. He gets more views with those than he does when he's replying to me. So I imagine that, when I reply to the video that he made about me like a week or two ago, that could very well be the last time he ever makes a video about me. Because it's not helping his channel. It's not getting him any views. So he ain't going to care to keep replying to me. It was fun to do it again for a few videos, but I don't expect it to be a long-standing thing just because, it's not doing anything for his channel. I don't care whether I get views on it or not. For me, it's just something fun to do. So I'll probably keep making reply videos to some of the stupid things that he says, but I highly doubt that he'll reply to them when I do them from here on out. Did you find Janine Garofalo funny? Not especially. She was kind of funny in Wet Hot American Summer, and she had some funny lines in Mystery Men, but those are the only two movies of note, as far as I'm concerned, that she's been in. Yeah, she had a funny little cameo in Half Baked, and that was about it. Because, I mean, the truth about cats and dogs, come on. Do you have a favorite memory with your cousins? When I was on a trip to Panama City Beach with my cousins, and one of my cousins, the one who passed away a while back from accidentally breaking his own neck, set his brother's ass on fire while he was asleep. That's probably my favorite memory of my cousins. Black Baron versus Shokyo. Boy, those were the days. No, Black Baron versus me. Those were the days. Because I destroyed him. I out-promoed a pro wrestler. And it didn't take an incredible amount of effort to do it either, That video was mostly improvised on the fly. All I did was find a church organ background and download some royalty-free church organ music, put on one of my late father's old suit coats and a pair of my dad's old glasses, and used a exaggerated southern accent and improvised most of what I said. And still outdid him, to the point where he never even replied to it. Because what was he going to say? Is Laren Von Baron still around? Lamer Von Gamer? I don't know. I figured he'd be passed away by now. As old as he was back then, and with all the health problems that he said he had, I would imagine that he had shucked off this mortal coil, but perhaps he's still around. I don't know. If he is, I haven't seen any videos from him. Not in a long time. Not in a long time. Remember Black Bond? I still talk to Black Bond. Black Bond still makes videos. He's part of the Weapon Wheel podcast. So yes, considering that I still talk to him to this day, I remember Black Bond. And yes, he had a lot of enemies. It's more fun to remember guys that aren't around anymore. Like, who remembers Hooge? The water buffalo. Good God. Now that was a lulz cow. If there was anyone who could fill the void of Chris Chan getting put in a mental home or whatever is going to happen to him, it would be Hooge. Hooge could do it. If he came back, Hooge he could fill that void. He could be the new Chris Chan without too much effort. No, mortal coil. It's another way of saying dying. Shuck off this mortal coil. I haven't played Mortal Shell. 8th didn't like it. Hooge was a lunatic. Well, he wasn't exactly sane. He was very stalkery. Borderline schizophrenic. There was a lot of things wrong with him, and every time he went off his meds, here he'd come again. Good Lord. Good Lord. I hope nothing bad happened to him, but he's been gone for a long time. I would hope that maybe someone in his extended family found out what he was doing on YouTube and talked some sense into him and told him that it wasn't the best place for him to be. You should make a punk song about Ghost Rider. Would Chris Chan last in prison? No. No, especially not since they're not trying him as a female. They're not trying Chris as a female in prison or in court, which means that if convicted, Chris Chan would go to a male prison, and Chris Chan would not last long in a male prison. I don't think it's going to go that far. I think that they're going to order a psych evaluation of him, and the minute he starts talking about how, what he did with his mother wasn't illegal because he did it in a dimension that was outside of their jurisdiction, he'll get sent to a funny farm instead. Yeah, Fat Gamer was always a troublemaker. I mean, I got along with him, but he was always stirring stuff up. What was the height of the console war era? When it was El Presidor and me and General G and Solid Rev and Hellhound and all of them going up against MLD and Noxious BLD and all those guys. That was the height. Black Baron came along during the decline. He came along when things were already starting to die down. And he just provided a new target because all of the Trey Brotherhood guys that were still around at that point transitioned over to debating with Wii people instead of 360 people. Is what it is. Sorry, I'm just playing with a pocket knife. We got 14 minutes left. $14 and still $29 short. It ain't gonna happen tonight, folks. Ain't gonna happen tonight. I mean, look, there's only 16 people left still watching. That ought to tell you everything you need to know. That ought to tell you everything you need to know. I mean, I've been doing this for years now. You guys, you always, the same ones always show up, but have you noticed that we don't really get that many new people in here? Just is what it is. This stream isn't growing. It's not getting any bigger. And eventually, the ones that are still coming are going to start getting bored of me answering the same questions every Saturday night, because it's a lot of the same stuff. I get asked a lot of repeat questions. And it's not as interesting as other podcasts because I'm the only one on it. I don't have like a team of people that are discussing topics and whatnot, like, the Press Start or the what's the one that a Spawncast, where it's a whole team of people. It's just me. It's just me. And the fact that you guys show up when I do it, you 20 or 30 that show up every time that I do it, is the only reason that I still do it. If it wasn't for that, I probably would have just quit YouTube altogether a long time ago. It certainly isn't for the money. Because, I don't really make that much off of it at all. Remember that podcast that Fat Gamer did with Hard 8 when he kicked Black Bond out? Yes. Are you going to finish watching Masters of the Universe? Probably not. Dr. Trey, the definitive version of all your favorite games. Yes, I remember. Trey's still on Twitter. He doesn't post much, but he posts every now and again. "11 minutes left." It's not like I could transition my channel over to doing like, purely retro stuff. Because I've done retro stuff before, but, and I'm friends with several people in the retro community, but I'm not really considered a part of the retro community because I didn't get started in that community. I got started in the console war community, so I'm kind of an outsider looking in. And, when you go to one of these retro gaming conventions, the only thing you'll ever hear about console war stuff is people talking about Nintendo versus Sega. That's the only time you ever hear any console war stuff at one of these cons. Sega does what Nintendo don't. That's all you ever hear about. You will not hear people debating, Microsoft versus Sony or anything like that at one of these cons because they don't care. They don't care. It doesn't interest them. I could come to one of those. I could go to one of those conventions as a guest and put on a panel. The history of the YouTube console wars, and do a whole big presentation about the Trey Brotherhood and all that stuff. Talk about all the major players and all the big arguments that happened. Nobody would show up for that panel. Nobody. I'd be talking to an empty room because they don't care. Are you mainly single player? Has it been a while since you were big into multiplayer? I stopped caring about multiplayer back in 2004. I was big into it for a while, and then I got burnt out on it, and I've never gone back. I've dabbled in it just enough to be able to do a review and be able to talk about the multiplayer, but that's it. I don't have any interest in getting involved in that anymore and haven't for a long time. That's a great idea, though. Yeah, but the kind of conventions that I go to is the wrong venue for it. Like if I went to Retropalooza in October as a guest rather than a VIP, nobody would. And I tried to put on a panel about the history of console wars. Nobody would go to watch that. There wouldn't be a single person, not even my friends, at that con. Like the Game Chasers or any of those guys, 8-Bit Eric, any of those guys. None of them would sit in on it because that's just not something that's of interest to them. They collect for all systems. What would they care about console war stuff? They collect for Nintendo, Sega, Sony, Microsoft. They collect all of it. Warhawk on PS3, watching you and Presidor and MLD. Oh man, yeah, those were fun times, but they're over. DankNet did a good. DankNet's video on El Presidor wasn't that great because it didn't really cover the Trey Brotherhood at all. It skipped over that whole period of him. And I had to go and say to him, you skipped over an entire section of his career on YouTube. One of the ones that he's the most known for, and you skipped over it. Did you know that Gamer Nate's father caught COVID because of him? I never really interacted with Gamer Nate that much, so no, I didn't know. Never interacted with him that much. I wouldn't have even known he existed if not for a couple of people I know mentioning him because he was such a small channel. What about an online panel with a guest here and there, one per week or something? I don't think that I would be able to talk anybody into being on an online podcast with me. I don't think that would happen. I've been invited onto other people's podcasts before, but I've been on Weapon Wheel, and I've been, of course, on Titanfall Princess's podcast back when she was doing one. But I don't think that I'd be able to invite anybody that you guys would care about hearing onto a special other podcast outside of the 7thCast. I don't think it would. I don't think I'd even be able to get anybody to be a regular panelist on the 7thCast. If I decided to make the 7thCast multi-person, I don't think anybody would come to it. I just don't think it would happen. Is El Presidor mentally ill, or is it an act? He says that he suffers from mental illness, but, and I remember there was like some information from a family member that was leaked out a few years ago where they said he was like the mentally ill family member, but I don't know if any of that was true. I know he likes everyone to think that he's mentally ill. Five-minute warning, folks. 5-minute warning. We're almost at the end here. Technically speaking, we're already at 3 hours, but, I always start a little early. Gamer Nate once threatened to do someone harm in a video, and he had to delete it a long time ago. It's not the first time that something like that has happened on YouTube. Right, Tokes, if you're still here? I will cut you from your nose down to your toes and back up to your MFN a-hole. Toke's cousin, man. It's classic. It's classic. That, I don't have near the following that I used to have. Not even close. And I don't get the views near as much as I used to. Not even close. But people still talk about when Tokes and his cousin threatened to do me bodily harm. People still talk about it to this day. Wait a minute. Oh, magic powers. Oh, that one was a felt ripper right there. Whew. Every time that video gets deleted on YouTube, the whole Tokes video, somebody will mirror it and re-upload it. If you dig, and to this day, if you dig far enough, you'll find it. I went looking for it about a year, 2 years ago, or about a year. No, it was about a year ago. I went looking for it and I found a copy of it, still on YouTube. But as far as YouTube goes, I'm past my prime. You guys know this. I'm still as sharp up here as I ever was. But, no one cares about the opinion of a guy my age anymore. Aside from you guys. There's never going to be a time where you log on to the 7thCast and there's so many people in it asking questions so fast that your question doesn't get answered. It's never going to happen. Is what it is. Might have happened at one point. I mean, back in 2016, I was getting 20, 30, 40,000 views per video. Things were really clicking. My subs were going through the roof. And then because of a family health issue, I had to drop off of YouTube for about a month. And when I came back, I switched from TGN to Screenwave. And all the momentum on my channel just died. And it never came back. Never came back. Just is what it is. No big deal. Unless you get rated by a bigger channel's fan base. I've been rated before. I can't remember who it was that did it, but it was a much bigger channel than mine. Didn't do anything for me. Not a thing. Not a thing. I mean, I've been featured on an episode of the Game Chasers. Didn't gain 1 sub from it. The algorithm is not going to allow it. ...2016, where I was almost at 19,000 subs... and I was getting 20, 30, and 40,000 views a video... is as big as I'm ever going to get. And yes, it's 9 o'clock. We're $29 short of the $50 extension. It's not going to happen tonight. So this is where I have to cut things off. I will endeavor, as long as work doesn't need me, to be back next Saturday. So please think about what all you want to ask me. If you have any ideas for a main topic you'd like me to start things out with, which I always do at the start of the 7thCast, then feel free to send those to me over Twitter at the 7th level. And I will, if one of them catches my eye, I will discuss it. Until then, I will see you guys later. Same 7th time.